If you live with the constant fear and shame of saying, I have borderline personality disorder with your out loud voice, anxiety ridden that you might be locked up if you do, if you've ever felt so alone and isolated thinking, there's no other person on the planet that can understand what I go through every minute of every hour, and the message playing on repeat in your head is, I can't do anything right. If you have frequent thoughts of, I don't matter, everyone will be happier if I'm not around, I should just end it, only to fumble those efforts too, you're not alone, and you've come to the right place. Welcome to I Can't Even Kill Myself Right, your safe space. Here we offer a raw, slightly humorous, and compassionate inside look at what it's like to be a BPD warrior, while demonstrating this disability is not a life sentence. And oh yeah, there's some learning and mindfulness nuggets too. Before we jump into today's episode, it's important to know there might be explicit language and content that could possibly be distressing or triggering. If you choose to listen, please consider using the resources on our website, showmegrace.org, to reset. Please take care of yourself and don't be afraid to seek help if triggered.
If a person with BPD can't maintain a job, it's not because they can't do the work. It's not because they don't want to keep the job. It's because the interpersonal things trigger a lot and the people are not tuned into how to deal with them, and they're very sensitive. And nobody wants to not work, and nobody wants to be a failure. Nobody wants to get money from their parents. It's not a positive situation. They'd be much happier managing on their own. And this came up in this training. And one of the trainers said, well, that's enough. They need to get a job no matter what it is, even if it's cleaning toilets with a brush. I heard that and I thought, why am I paying money for this training? This woman doesn't know what she's talking about. You go and tell somebody with BPD who can't manage a job, well, go do anything, go get a job, even if it's cleaning toilets. And her shame would lead you right into the emergency room or the morgue for suicide.
Just unbelievable.
That's what she said. I thought, I can't believe this.
What about first do no harm? Like, how dare you say that kind of thing to people and then they get to run with it? It's that kind of this misinformation that just, I just can't.
For example, every parent comes over to me and says, well, they should be responsible. We should have limits and boundaries. Your audience may not be neuroscientists, but very simple brain lesson. Your brain has two parts. One is cognitive. It's like a file cabinet. You get, the chemistry I learned in high school and my mathematic times tables, and this is how you read, and this is how you cross the street, and, this is what the newspaper I read. That's cognition. Then you have another part of your brain that's emotional. Now, when somebody tells you something, you either understand it cognitively, oh, you can't touch the stove because you'll get burnt. Okay, I understand that cognitively. But if I'm starving and I see the food on the stove and I grab for it because I'm starving and I'm hungry and I want to eat, I'm not thinking about getting burnt. I'm thinking about my emotion and my feeling. I'm hungry. I need to eat. That's emotional reasoning. When people with BPD are triggered, when they're upset, they only think emotionally. And a boundary and a limit and a consequence are cognitive. And you are asking emotional people to respond to cognitive rules. It does not work.
I'm speaking Spanish and everyone else is speaking English.
That is in the neuroscience for everyone. It's not in the neuroscience for borderlines. It is in the neuroscience for everyone. When someone is upset, it does not help them to say, snap out of it, calm down.
Oh my gosh. It's like you were in my house growing up. Well, I am having triggers right now.
Well,
But you
that
know,
is in every single book about how to deal with your borderline loved one. It is how the therapists are trained, and it is what the therapist tells the families, and it breaks down the family. And I have to wait till the families come to us, and then I have to overcome the resistance, which takes weeks because the families are brainwashed.
yeah, I've always been really fascinated by the brain. As someone who was hit by a car when I was 14, and so I was in a coma for a really long time. And when I came out, so I can talk to you clearly about things that, was characteristics of me pre-coma and then characteristics of me, post-coma. But I've always felt like something happened when I awakened and I could no longer, I had lost all my memory. So all of the stuff from childhood, things, that you're supposed to know to do at a certain age, like I couldn't recall that at all. And then coupled with the fact that my legs are paralyzed, so they had to do the shock therapy to get that going. So navigating all of that, I could never and I had to go back to school. And so I had to walk to school with these braces on my leg and a walker and going from playing basketball to all of a sudden this, right? And a parent who's like, get there however you can get there. And I was like,
that might have been the best thing they told you because it made you keep going.
It made me keep going, but at the same time, I've never been able to decipher. And what you're saying to me is so fascinating because I'm like, how much of that was rage, right? Appropriate rage, and then how much of that was my BPD stuff, manifesting. Like I've never really been able, or was not necessarily manifesting, or was the coma the trigger for it? Like the way my brain worked prior to didn't seem as
Well,
overwhelming, I should say, as it did after the coma.
Well, if you would like a neurobiology example of that might fit what you're saying, in the neuroscience world, one of the first starters of neuroscience was a man named Phineas Gage.
Mm-hmm.
Phineas Gage was a railroad worker, and he was in California where they were building the railroads. And I think it was 1848 when this happened. And it's Phineas, Phineas, Phineas Gage. Every medical student learns about Phineas Gage. And his injury was a start of understanding the brain. Phineas Gage was a railroad worker, and his job was to take the rocks. They were trying to get through mountains and so on to build the railroad. And he was a worker who would drill a hole in a rock and force gunpowder in it and ignite it so that the rock would break up. And his personality, the kind of guy he was honest, he was married, he didn't beat his wife, he didn't drink, he didn't gamble, he didn't philander. He was, his company was giving him better jobs because he was like a boss of a group. He was an excellent leader. He was very cooperative. He was a completely great guy. One day, one of his crew, they were putting the dynamite in the hole in the rock, and they would force it in with what they called a tamping rod. It was a big rod that would go in the hole and pack in the dynamite. They ignited the gunpowder, and it went off, and it went, if your audience can imagine, if you go to the top of your eye where your nose is, it went in there and went out through the top of his head. It went in before his eye.
Whoa.
Before his eye, and came out on the top of his head. Well, believe it or not, at that moment, there happened to be a doctor there, and it was 1848, and he managed to keep the wound clean, and Phineas Gage survived the injury.
What?
Yeah. So I call Phineas Gage the first borderline because the injury healed. And now, if I could show you, maybe you can explain to your audience where it is. It went into the here by the nose. And if they look it up on the internet, they'll see pictures of it. And it came out right up here. And what it did.
At the top of his skull.
The top of his skull. And it broke through the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that controls behavior, executive function, and so on and so forth. Phineas Gage recovered. He became a drunk. He got into fights with everybody. He lost his job. He beat his wife. He was trouble with the police. He wound up dying and being buried in Potter's Field. Left nobody there. He completely changed. He was the first case where they realized that an injury in this place, what that injury could do. So
amazing.
It's just so fascinating to see that. And so I call him the first borderline because the part of his brain was not holding back the urges, impulses, and so on, and but everyone can look him up.
That's amazing.
GAGE 1848. Every medical student learns it.
I am going down that rabbit hole today. That's amazing.
They don't apply that to the behavior of human beings today.
And this is a good place to kind of, I know I could talk to you all day, but I want to just leave it here with like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, why not?
Maybe we should form a group called Why Not?
Yes.
So why not? I don't know why not. Why do I know all of this, collect all this information? And I will tell you that there is not a single person on this podcast, I don't know who I'm talking to, who would not understand any aspect of the biology that is known about BPD, substance abuse, all these disorders. It explains to them, I can explain it. You just need a metaphor to explain it. You just heard it with Phineas Gage. Why aren't we sharing this information with people so that we stop blaming one another, getting angry with one another, and not realizing that we're there to help each other. And we can help each other if we stop judging, blaming, and criticizing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's such a good place. I love to leave it on a positive recovery-based note. And so, but is there anything we've talked about so much? And again, I hope you guys need to listen to this one a couple of times to catch all of the nuggets. But is there anything that we haven't covered about, this BPD land that you feel is important for our audience that you want to throw out there now?
One, don't believe what you read about BPD. Most of it's wrong. Most of it's not based on science. Most of the treatment is not based on science. 2, nobody with BPD is a bad person. Nobody with BPD is doing these things on purpose. They're not doing it intentionally, and they're suffering. Number 3 is you have a biological hypervigilance that makes you not trust people. And the heartbreak of BPD is that the way their brain is, they misinterpret the intentions of other people to the negative. And it's up to the other people to be able to deal with that and explain themselves and communicate better and work towards trust. And everything depends on trust. And it's not intentional, not on the parent's part, not on the child's part, not on the partner's part. And it takes a compassionate person to modify the environment so it's safe and everyone can be happily ever after. The tragedy with a lot of couples is one partner will use the BPD against the person and torture them because they feel failed and they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I just think learn the biology. It's biology-based. Learn the science. The science counters the stigma. And we need to know the science.
Yes.
And I get so much flack for that.
Do not show
your significant other the movie A Beautiful Mind and tell them, this reminds me of you.
That's not the way to go. This is what Valerie's telling you people. Do you hear her? Do not do that.
What the other one with Glenn Close?
Yes. Fatal attraction. Yes, do not do that one either. Okay, not good.
Just remember that Princess Diana. Princess Diana was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Yes.
Most beautiful and charming and gracious woman. She suffered the same as all the people out there with BPD.
She's such a great example of my T-shirt, the serious introvert who knows how to extrovert when necessary, because she was definitely forced to do that more times than she needed to. Well, thank you. It's been such an honor. And I just wanted you to tell before I get to your fabulous book and how they can get in touch with you, you mentioned, don't trust what they're reading, right? But on the flip side of that, if you had to say like one to three, maybe resources that are good to trust, that you can go to and get the information besides yours, of course.
My book is called Overcoming BPD, A Family Guide for Healing and Change. It's Oxford University Press, which means it had to be fact-checked before it was published. It's a science-minded publisher. My advice to anyone who calls me is stop reading any book on borderline, except for mine. But mine I wrote it in 2010. What you have to read is read a book on evolution. I told you one on good reasons for feeling bad. The other books to read is books on emotional intelligence. Books on David Brooks has books on how to communicate. Brene Brown is wonderful on shame. The books there's a wonderful book for people with BPD to read. It's called Discomfortable. And it's by A.J. Bond.
Love that title.
Shane. Look for books about the science. We have a lot of books listed on our website. We have to do a whole bunch of others. I've been thinking about having a book club where we pick a book and have people come in and talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, read books about sensitivity. Read books about evolution. Read books about the science underneath of the symptom that you feel. Read books about the connection of the gut to the mind.
Mm-hmm.
But don't read books about borderline because they're wrong.
Right. Read books about neuroscience.
There's so many books. I mean, the people can't see, but I'm surrounded by books. But there's so much good stuff to read. Oh, a very important book that people could read is, I don't know the man, but I'd like to meet him. I think his name is Haidt, Haidt. He wrote a book about, I think it's the anxious generation. And it's really a book about the effect of the electronics on children and the relationship of children to parents. And if anybody is having difficulty with their parents who's in like teen or 20s, or anybody who's raising a youngster right now, that book, I think, I heard him interviewed. We have a link to the interview he did on NPR just recently on PBS. I'm not a genius. There's so many areas. And educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not on BPD, on all these other areas.
And you guys, we have a link to Tara for BPD, and that's Tara, the number 4, BPD.org. And we'll also be posting all of the fabulous ways you can get in touch in the podcast notes for this episode. And of course, if you missed any of that, feel free to just email us and at presspauseforgrace@gmail.com, and we will get you in touch with Valerie and her team right away.
Oh, I think you and I have to do something together. I think we have to start getting a list together of conferences across the country that people can attend. The American Psychiatric Association is going to be, I think, in LA this year in May or June. And you just attend. And there are lower prices for people who are not professionals. And you don't have to understand anything. Just show up, start learning. ask questions. Don't be embarrassed. The more of people who come out and challenge these people, you're not in the shadows. Open your mouth, get out there, ask them questions, demand better treatment. You deserve it.
When I agree, and thank you for extending that partnership. I want to get my story out in book form, and so that there will be a second book that you'll be able to recommend to people in addition to yours. And so that's the one thing that has actually held me back a little bit from wanting to be more of a voice, speak up, is because I feel like once I'm able to, tell my story my way, and then it's out there, there's nothing that anybody else can. Exactly.
Yeah.
That'll be the number one way that I attack and combat the shame of it all, is telling it myself. It's just good.
Well, I'm fighting it on this science end, and we've had some incredible, wonderful results in the last couple of weeks that really can make a difference. And it's the science that you have to work on. The bottom line, Nicole, is we all need to raise money for research.
Yes.
Not for not-profits, not for little meetings.
Well, no, don't say that part, because I have a nonprofit, but the nonprofit is driving the research. So yes, we do need to raise the money for the nonprofit so we can keep the research going.
When I hear a parent tell me I spent $300,000 on their school set, that could fund a study.
Yes. I want to build virtual reality gaming solutions. Like, I need the money. Like, I've got the solutions in my head to help the people. I just need to get connected to the resources to do it. I really do. I see it happening. I see it.
Yes.
I see it.
I'm old. I need people to take over for me.
Listen, I would take that money also. This is my wish list. Take that money and I would create a Grace Cafe. And in that cafe, I'd have relax, relate, release centers. And you could just come 24/7 whenever you're in crisis, or you just need a place to be, right? Just come and be. Nobody's asking you of anything. You want to go rage out? Are you feeling angry right now? Go in that rage room and break some shit.
Well, I sent you one moving kiss. You want to know what my first idea was in 1993?
If you say this idea, I'm going to get off this call right now.
We needed to buy a building so that they could come any time of day or night and do exactly what you said. And I have evolved to know that that's all wonderful, but what we need is the bloody research that cures it.
But I agree. And I think two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
I do, because it's almost like when you have the therapist, right? And she's amazing. But what do you do the 2 weeks in between the time and your next appointment, right? So that's kind of like, I just want to fill in those gaps for people so that we feel less
isolated.
Yes, and less out of whack. Do you know how many times I went to an urgent care one time, and I used to be a frequent visitor of ERs and urgent cares. And there was one in particular where the nurse was there, and so she knew my situation. She would come and just let me be. And then she left, went somewhere else, and I didn't know. So I came to the place where I thought was safe. And this other nurse now was in her feelings that day. She's every 2 minutes, what doctor are you here to see? And I'm like, I'm not here to see a doctor. I'm just sitting. And so I'm throwing out the name of the nurse. She's still like, every 2 minutes, we need you to check in. And I'm like, I'm not here to. Next thing you know, this woman calls the police on me. Promise you.
I understand it completely.
Promise you. Those cops followed me to my car, where I politely had to then explain to them for the next 10 minutes that I was not planning to harm myself. I was just there to de-escalate my own self.
Well, maybe we got to get you on a thing to explain that to families, because we work very hard to tell families not to call the police and not to go to the emergency room.
Yes. That's exactly right. But imagine if there was a space in an ER, like the smoking area at the airport, you know? It was just a little space at the ER. It'd be like, you having a hard day?
Well,
all right.
Elon Musk will develop a decompression chamber for us.
Yeah. There it is. We have solved it.
we have solved the case.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I really enjoyed it, and I hope your people will understand my point of view. And anybody with questions, please just learn about yourselves and don't believe what you're reading. Don't believe it. And, if you have families and they don't talk to you, let them talk to me. We repair relationships. That's what my major goal is with families right now, is to reconnect and get cohesiveness back with people.
That's a mic drop moment if I've ever heard one. And I think that's where we're going to leave it today, people. So till next time, take care of yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you caught a nugget or two. Don't forget to join us each week for guest interviews, first-hand experiences from BPD warriors, and learning about tools designed to aid you along your recovery journey. And most importantly, don't forget to say your BPD mantra daily. Dear BPD, I no longer have room for you to control my life. My warrior spirit will take it from here. Till next time, wishing you an abundance of healing, self-love, and grace.
As today's chapter of I Can't Even Kill Myself Right comes to a close, we want to remind you that you are not alone in this journey. And don't forget to take a moment to explore the showmegrace.org website, our initiative for those moments when life feels overwhelming, all dedicated to helping you press pause on the chaos and embrace a moment of peace. If you find yourself in crisis or standing at a crossroads, remember, help is just a phone call away by simply dialing the crisis hotline 988, or contact your mental health provider and working your crisis action plan if you're considering harm to yourself or others. Your story doesn't end here. Your next chapter is yet to be written. Stay connected with us. Your insights, questions, and personal narratives fuel this journey. Wherever you tune in, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or another platform, your engagement shapes our mission. Share your recovery journeys or pose questions for future episodes by reaching out through our website. Your voice could light the way for others or even feature alongside us as a guest or co-host.